Blessed day, soul family. Welcome back. Martial Mystic 2026. It is Wellness Wednesday, and we're looking at the spring component of life, living, and medical Qigong. We'll be talking about relationship connection to all things created, internal Kung Fu of inner vision. And we're also going to talk about that little anger problem that you have. So, would you say that you have an anger problem? Is it small? Is it big? Perhaps it's roughly the size of your liver. So if you have a liver, you are likely at some point in time to have an anger problem, and it's okay. I know this isn't exactly small talk. I know this is a little personal. However, it's also very human because each of us have a liver. Each of us has a liver, and in traditional Chinese medicine, the liver is associated with spring and with the emotion of irritability and anger. So, if we were to take a better look at the organs in the body, we would see that TCM pairs organs together. For example, the lungs and the large intestine, the heart and the small intestine, spleen, stomach, liver, and gallbladder, liver and gallbladder, and kidney bladder. So, before I continue, let's remind ourselves of this ancient poetry. The origin of human life is nothing else but the original Qi, Yuan Qi. If you know where the original Qi resides, then you're not too far from the great Tao. Lao Tzu said, millions of objects are all embracing singularity, and they live. There's no object which does not conceal the yin and embrace the yang. There's no object in existence that doesn't have yin and yang. And so I would venture to think that anger and irritability and impatience is something that you would likely not want to look at and likely want to dismiss or sweep under the rug. We don't really want to necessarily claim those things as being a part of ourselves, but we just need to understand that we contain the yin and the yang, complementary um, aspects of emotional life. And in this case, we can transcend any aspects of suffering or not wanting to look at these things. So we contain also the yin and the yang, such as, and in addition to the day and the night. So if we look at our internal clock, TCM gives us this internal clock where, let's just say at the top of the clock here is noon. The heart is what is at the forefront. So typically the way that I understand this is that most of the energy or the energy is allocated to the heart. That doesn't mean that there's no energy in any of these other organs, but what happens is our energy as the day goes by also passes through these organs as well. And so oftentimes my teacher would say, if you're waking up in the middle of the night between 1 and 3, then that means that your liver is on fire. On fire, meaning that it's yang. It's not in a balanced state and it's not yin. It's yang. It's inflamed, similar to having a fever. Fever is inflammation of the body, but it's a good inflammation because it's allocating resources to handle whatever has penetrated the body's system. So all of our organs, you can see here that the organs are also associated with the five elements: earth, fire, water, wood, metal. So the liver is associated with metal. So science now shows us that our internal clocks, the circadian rhythms, shift significantly with the increased blue light of spring mornings. This light hits the retina, signaling the hypothalamus, which in turn affects bile production and metabolic cleaning processes. Functions Western science attributes to the physical liver. So whether we call it the wood element or the photoperiodic neuroendocrine response, the conclusion is the same. The body reboots when the light changes. We're going to go more into the Eastern um, paradigm. But just to review, the emotions associated with the organs are as follows: the lungs, sadness and grief; the liver, anger; the kidneys, fear; the spleen, worry; and heart, joy. So that's just to say, now one could ask, do the emotions origin originate in the organs? Do the organs cause emotions, or vice versa? What happens first? And so this is interesting to look at because oftentimes what we do is say, well, whatever's happening externally, that is what's stimulating my emotion. So that could be the case. However, we know that if you eat foods that cause the liver to um, go on fire, for example, fried food, I think sugar, alcohol, those things will cause the liver to inflame. That means you could be easily stimulated, regardless of what's happening externally. You could be easily irritable and lose patience and get angry. So that something that can be easily looked over by yourself when you are in balance and in homeostasis could not be the case, and you could be easily stimulated if the liver were on fire. So this is just kind of how we look at the organs and then how we try to protect and prevent uh, excess yang and imbalance. So I'm not a traditional Chinese medicine doctor, and I'm not too versed with TCM. My main study is in martial arts Qigong. So that's not to say I don't know. I picked up a lot um, at the retreat center, but there's uh, martial arts Kung Fu, spiritual Kung Fu, medical Qigong as well, and scholar Qigong. I meant to say martial Qigong and spiritual Qigong. But there's four schools of Qigong, and they often overlap because in martial arts Qigong, you're fighting for your survival. If you're not living, then you don't have a body to maintain. So martial arts is part of wellness, right? In terms of assuring safety and security for yourself and your family. Um, and medical Qigong now starts to look at that intention of survival and look at prevention. So let's look more at how we can take care of the liver in the spring, right? Because we don't want our anger problem to flare up. So this is called the five-phase theory, Wu Xing. In this case, the spring, the element is wood. Like a tree in spring, the liver's energy is characterized by expansion upward, upward movement, and also flexibility. So that's the important thing. A living branch is malleable. A living plant is malleable. A dead plant is rigid and breaks. So keep that in mind as you're going through the spring. The function now, the liver is often called the general of the body. Just as spring, it's time to plant the year's crops. The liver is responsible for the smooth flow of qi and strategic planning within the body, allocation of resources, excrement of waste. The metaphor here, we describe it as a river ecology. When the liver chi is stagnant, the river of our internal energy becomes a swamp, murky, heavy, and frustrated. Spring is the season of thawing. Why? Because spring is coming after winter, where things were frozen. Ice melts and water must be guided to flow freely to nourish the rest of the garden. Here's spring, chun. The components of spring. This is how the character is broken down. It combines grass, the character for grass and plants, and the character for a sprouting seed struggling to break through the soil. The meaning here, the character literally depicts the sun's warmth acting upon a seed until it bursts through the resistance of the earth. This is exactly how the liver chi feels. It's a pressurized upward force. If that pressure is blocked, it turns into liver fire. So how does your anger problem coincide with the pressure of life and living? Now that we have longer days, we are expected to do more, produce more in the day, right? So how could that pressure lead to the breakdown of your patience, the breakdown into irritability, into frustration, and into anger? So let me know what you think. If you feel comfortable with it, are we getting to the heart of the matter here or the liver? Are we getting to the liver of the matter here, possibly with your anger problem or your anger situation? And just remember, it's okay because everybody has it. Everybody's got a liver. So everybody's got that seed. Everybody's got that potential, right? And so even for like an entrepreneurial type or a creative type, for someone who is trying to manifest things, let's say if you're in your teens or your 20s or even 30s, right? Maybe you're retired and you just, have the intention to rest. Um, then this might not apply to you. But if you're trying to make things happen, if you're a go-getter, maybe a type A personality, then you apply self-pressure or you feel societal pressure, or maybe you have economic pressure. This is the same pressure that the seed and the sprouting feels as it's under the energy of the sun, as is mentioned here. So then, with that in mind, how does that connect you and build the relationship to the sun? What does that tell you about the sun and your biological clock, your circadian rhythm? All right. What does this tell you about your relationship to your intentions, your business, your art, your craft, your intention, your vision, right? So let's finish off here. The liver. So, gan, let's look at the components of the liver. On the left is the flesh or the body radical. On the right is uh, gun, which is originally depicted as a shield or a forked staff. The meaning, while gun provides the phonetic sound, its history as a shield or a standard is significant. It implies the liver is the body's protective pillar. In the context of the wood element, it represents the trunk of the tree, the sturdy part that allows the branches to reach out. So, in Gong Fu and in Chinese medicine, the parts of the tree are very important, especially when we look at um, our horse stance and traditional Chinese Gong Fu. The horse stance represents the connection to the earth. It's the foundation for all the other stances, and the torso is the trunk. And as we do our Tai Chi or Qigong, the arms represent the branches and the flowers. But what is important is what is going to be feeding the roots? What is at the root? Because what is ultimately fed into the roots manifests into the branches and the flowers. So I really like this metaphor, and it speaks to the medical Qigong, traditional Chinese medicine, and the martial Qigong, and how they cross over and overlap. Specifically here with the trunk of the tree and the sturdy part, liver as the protective pillar. And that would make sense seasonally as well, as spring is starting to bring us out of the dormant winter into the sun. So, really just crucial insight here and theory. Let me know what you think. Did I miss anything? How would you explain it? And I think this also gives us a foundation to talk about that little problem. Just that little, it's just a little problem. But then when we know and we understand that problem, then we can start to take action and mitigate. So moving forward, we'll talk about nourishing the liver with greens and with balancing emotional energies. But perhaps tomorrow we'll talk about the balancing the frustration and the anger, and then how this can help us look at one another, look at our relationships, and look at the large world. Do our world leaders anger you? Does the system um, and possible collapse anger or frustrate you, or maybe induce fear? So we'll look at that tomorrow with Resolution Thursday. Until next time, may your chi flow smoothly, and remember to embrace the woo.